Welcome in, Royals fans, to another edition of the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jacob Milham, joined by my illustrious co-host, Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, happy Sunday, man. It's been a good weekend. I am just not ready for the work week to start, even though it's a short one because it's the holiday.
That is true. It is a short one.
Yes.
And, that might otherwise give us more time to watch the Royals, but we might not do that. I don't know.
We might not. We're going to talk about this Chicago White Sox series on today's podcast, but before we
I
get too
can
deep into it, go ahead.
I can promise you that I had a better weekend than Nick Lofton. So
Yes. But that's a pretty low bar to set after such a low bar shot, if you will, by Daniel Lynch the fourth. I hope that Nick Lofton's doing okay. Because that was they said that he had a contusion, but holy cow. Holy smoke.
okay, this is the second groin discussion that I've witnessed or participated in the last week. I don't know if you saw Jazz Chisholm Jr. fouled one
Yep.
off his groin.
Yep.
Why aren't these guys wearing cups?
I don't know. It's a good
I
question.
know that it's not comfortable. I know that it doesn't protect you from all pain and injury, but I feel like if Nick Lofton had been wearing a cup, he wouldn't have had to come out of the game yesterday, and he could have started at third today.
Probably so. Probably so. And, unfortunately, we will be talking about groins more in today's episode.
All the groins, baby. It's
Yes.
groin time.
So hey, if you're listening to this and you're not working hours, if you want a drinking game, maybe take a shot every time we say the word groin starting now.
I mean, just set a limit though, because this could get crazy, and I don't
It
want
could.
anyone to die of alcohol poisoning listening to this podcast.
Well, don't worry. I'm sure a lot of folks were drinking heavily after Friday night's loss. Don't worry
Yeah,
about that, Jeremy.
jeez.
We unfortunately will be talking about that and the Royals narrowly avoiding another sweep. But before we get too deep into it, a reminder as always to go support royalsreview.com by reading the work that goes on over there. Feed the feed, start conversations with other Royals fans over there. It's not royalsreview.com, but I will say the KC Royals subreddit on Reddit has been getting quite,
I'm scared of that place.
I don't, lively is not the right word because lively has a little bit of a positive connotation to
Rowdy?
it. Yes, rowdy, I think is one way to put it. But that is all of Royal social media right now. If you want a place to vent, royalsreview.com is a good place to do that. Jeremy, something that we failed to do last episode that we're going to start off for today is we're going to be talking about these injuries because there are plenty of injuries that are headline news for the Royals right now that just keep holding this team back. And we got to talk about it, man.
They were holding themselves back perfectly well before the
Yeah.
injuries.
Yeah.
I wanna make
Don't need
sure
the
that's
injury bug.
clear because we're gonna get to the end of the year, and JJ Piccolo is going to say, "Well, injuries just derailed this team. We still think we're on the right path. We hope to compete next year."
I'd
I
hope
guarantee
not.
you that something that I'm paraphrasing something that he will say in his end of year presser.
I severely hope not, but I can see it.
Alright, so let's see. I'll start with the oldest ones that have an update. Kyle Isbell doesn't have an update. Maikel Garcia has been battling the left-hand injury. He is rehabbing in Kansas City, but not swinging yet. He's scheduled for further evaluation on June 30th. So we don't know. His expected return is still TBD on here. They don't even have any idea when he might come back.
If this was, I'm sorry, but if this was just soreness, like general, like muscular soreness, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
you have to think that it wouldn't be TB.
Well, I mean, we knew it was a strain, this particular muscle strain. They talked about it weeks ago when he
I
first
know,
started dropping the bat.
but I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I think this is something else that is much more serious than the Royals are leading on. And right now, I don't trust a lot of the injury updates from the team right now because so many of them have not gone the way that the Royals have talked about them. You know what I
For
mean?
sure. I do have to think, they knew that this was an injury. They talked about this being an injury and they kept him out there. And your assumption as a fan, if they leave him out there, was, well, at least it's not going to get worse. But then it did get worse. I will say the Royals are not the only team that are seeing a lot of setbacks with guys with injuries. I was listening to Effectively Wild, and like the Cubs starting rotation. is all out, and they've all had setbacks. So, this is not. Not that the Royals are above criticism with the way they've handled injuries this year, because clearly they aren't. But this is not a only Royals problem. It might be an MLB problem. It might be a this year is really weird problem. It might be the Cubs and the Royals are just really bad problem. I don't know. But yeah, so you got that going for Maikel. Don't have a clue when he's coming back. Cole Ragans is going to get the elbow surgery on July 1st, and they won't know what the surgery is or what the timeline is until they start it. Hopefully, Dr. Neil Elatrash is not pulled into any more subpoenas or hearings, and he can perform the surgery, and we can all move on. Hopefully, I'm still crossing my fingers. I'm not holding my breath by any means, but I'm crossing my fingers that it's going to end up being a loose bodies, and they'll be able to scuba scope it, and he'll be back in a couple of months, maybe.
I dropped him for my fantasy team. I'm not holding my breath for Cole Ragans.
Yeah, I'm sitting here. I yelled at the guy who drafted Cole Ragans in front of me. I was second to last on a snake draft, and I skipped Cole Ragans, and I was like, I'll get him when the snake comes right back around to me. And I should have. I was like, I should have taken Cole, and now I'm like, ha, you took Cole Ragans.
And I do want to expound a little bit on Cole Ragans because, you know, so when Andy Rogers put out that update on social media, there was a big reaction to the fact that there wasn't a clear idea of what the surgery was going to be for, what the timetable was, things like that, which usually with elbow injuries, we have at least some semblance of an idea. But Andy did clarify that when a player undergoes multiple surgeries, as Cole Ragans has done on that elbow, 2 Tommy John surgeries in 18 and 19, the imaging it becomes harder to read after various procedures. That's
Sure,
how
that makes
Andy put
sense.
it. It does, and I do understand fans' frustration with the uncertainty though, especially after like Cole Ragans hasn't thrown more than 100 innings since the beginning of last season. Like we've been without him for quite some time.
And they're mad because we don't have Jaron Duran, and they're mad because the Royals said it was going to be a minimum IL stay. Like there's a lot of confusion and frustration there. In perhaps better news, Chris Bubich had his second rehab appearance. He has got an expected return of July. He pitched 2 scoreless innings in AAA, so he's moving in the right direction. I figure if he makes a third one without a setback, we can start to think about when he's coming back. I'm still interested to see how much they build him up, to see if he's going to maybe come back in the bullpen or back in the rotation. I think the Royals could really use him in the rotation, but if you think his arm can't handle it or that he makes a better trade piece as a reliever, then you can go that route. I still think he makes a better trade piece as a starter, but we'll see what happens. It's something that I'm watching, not something that I know what the answer is.
There you go.
Carlos Estevez has an expected return of July, but I don't buy it because the update here is that he threw a bullpen on June 27th, so that's yesterday as we're recording this, and his shoulder didn't feel great after it, so he's going to be reevaluated in the upcoming days. And that's like the third setback for Carlos Estevez
Yeah.
after he looked awful all spring training. I tend to think we have seen the last of Carlos in a Royals uniform unless they, sign him on what's it called, an incentive deal for next year. They're like, hey, Carlos, we really liked having you around. We can't guarantee you a lot of money. We'll give you a couple mil and some incentives for saves if you want to come back. But we're going to talk about someone else who maybe could get some saves in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Mears experienced a setback on his June 16th work, so he got an injection in his shoulder. He began playing catch again on June 22nd. He threw a bullpen yesterday and felt good on June 27th. So his expected return is July. If he continues to throw bullpens, feels good, he can go on a rehab assignment. As a reliever, he should only need a couple rehab assignments. He doesn't have to build, the arm back up to 100 pitches. Maybe we could get him back in this bullpen, see if he can help anchor it a little bit. Of course, who are you going to get rid of? Beckway, who's been maybe the best reliever the Royals have over the last couple weeks?
There's too many options at this
Will
point.
As these things tend to do, it'll work itself out. No reason to worry about that. Nick Lofton, groin injury, day to day. We all saw that. We all felt it. We all know that that's the Royals season in a nutshell. He
Pun
was off
intended.
the bench today, available off the bench today. So, we'll see. Hopefully he's wearing a cup going forward. And then the surprise injury from before today's game, Jac Caglianone with a left groin soreness, maybe a little sympathetic pain for Nick Lofton's suffering. He woke up this morning, June 28th, with soreness that didn't improve after treatment and some pregame work, so he was scratched from the lineup. He will be reevaluated when the Royals return home late tonight. And on the off day tomorrow, boy, that is a much needed off day. So there are your injury updates for the Kansas City Royals. Not a lot of good news happening there.
Nope, not a ton, Jeremy. Thank you for the update there. Yeah, this is, Jac Caglianone has been one of the bright spots for the Royals over this past month. It's looking farther and farther away from the possibility of him setting that June home run record, but that is a-okay. He has still been absolutely electric. So I was disappointed to see him miss out on today's game, but such is life.
I need him. Yeah, he didn't hit that home run you were predicting,
Nope.
unfortunately, because he didn't play.
Yep.
I want him back in the lineup because I still think he's got a legitimate shot at AL Player of the Month. He's still got the highest WRC plus in the American League, but if he doesn't finish out the month, they'll probably give it to somebody like Yordan Alvarez, who's not that far behind him, but is playing the entire month.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's go and talk about the Chicago White Sox series. So, thankfully, we're recording this after the Royals
Massacre.
won in the series finale, which is something that they have not done very much of this year. They're still one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball when it comes to winning in the final game of the series. But thankfully, they outdueled Anthony Kay and Steven Cruz picked up the win and Lang got the save. Like those are exactly the folks that we expected to be contributing to this bullpen at this point of the season. But overall, a good Royals win. I think that the headline thing is Carter Jensen. He started off strong. He had a 3-hit game today with 2 RBI and only 1 strikeout. He extends his major league best hitting streak to 19 games, and he is now chasing even greater history, I would say, for Jensen. So get this, he's now in the conversation with Buster Posey. Buster Posey had the longest hit streak by a rookie catcher back in 2010 when he had a 21 game hit streak. What?
I was concerned for a minute because the conversations Buster Posey has been having lately have not impressed me. But his play, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that conversation, we that's fine. You can have that conversation with him, I guess.
But he's already had the
That would
longest.
qualify as a baseball conversation, I
Yes, it
guess.
would. Yes, it would. He already has the longest hit streak by an AL rookie within a single season since Jose Abreu's 21 game hitting streak back in 2014. So more just great stuff from the rookie backstop right there. And he is getting that work. He's in that leadoff spot and absolutely producing. Do we want to talk about the lineup protection? Actually
Yeah,
doing
I
some
mean, we're
work
already
for him.
here. Let's do it.
Yeah. So this is, if you listen to this podcast for quite some time, you know that we really respect the work that goes on over a pitcher list and a lot of their, metrics and some of the process things. I think that's the biggest takeaway from pitcher list stats that I get. You look at Carter Jensen, and one of the things that really stood out to me is I went and looked up something called the pitch hitability. And that is something from Pitcher List, which says, hey, this pitch has a X amount chance of being a batted ball or being hit into play at least. And I went and looked at just how much it's increased since he got into the leadoff spot every single day. And it is night and day. Now he's well below MLB or league average on the season, of course, but since about the middle of June, he's been getting above MLB average pitch hitability. And it climbed from, the 10th percentile all the way to average just by him going into the leadoff spot, batting in front of Bobby Witt Jr. And I think that really, really shows that he could put the bat to the ball, and batting in front of Bobby does good things for whoever's in front of him.
Lineup protection. Who'd have thunk it? That's not one of the oldest concepts in baseball strategy.
No, it's not. And this is I listen. I Carter Jensen was already exciting enough in his role, right? He was already producing enough in his role, but like in this hit streak, he's got a 972 OPS, and this isn't just a handful of games. We're going on 3 weeks of this, and I think like despite the Royals being cemented in the AL Central basement and the AL basement overall, Carter Jensen in the leadoff spot has been an unequivocal success for the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, and I think it absolutely should continue. I think, if you're looking ahead to next year, I think the opening day lineup needs to go Carter, Bobby, Jack at the top. What happens after that is going to depend a lot on other things, but I feel pretty confident that those three guys will be here at the start of next season. So, and Maikel probably batting fourth, I would expect, unless, they could do some other things and maybe shift Maikel down to sixth. It wouldn't be the worst thing that's ever happened. But yeah, I think your top three of Carter, Bobby, Jack, you have to feel really good about that top three. If Bobby continues being Bobby, which I'm not betting against that anytime soon, and Carter and Jack look like they have it Jude for the most part, then yeah, I like it. So they've at least it only took them, there certainly wasn't anyone saying, "Hey, what if these guys batted higher in the lineup during the off season?" No one was saying that. Certainly, David Lesky didn't say Carter Jensen should be the leadoff guy, and I didn't argue that Jack should be batting number two. None of that happened at all, for
No,
sure.
none of it.
That's weird.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very weird how that works.
But it only took the Royals like 2.5 months to come up with that themselves. So
Well,
that's
and
pretty fast, right? 2.5
No.
months?
No.
No, it's not.
No.
That's a long time
Yeah, but believe it or
in
not,
baseball.
yes, it is. Which, something else that, I'm trying to think that while we've all been on the Jack wagon, while we've all been on the Jensen train or the Genzo train, as the Royals are trying to make happen on social media, a little cringe there, but that's neither here nor there. The Mac Quatrero firing train is gaining some steam as the Royals are losing so much. I know that the Mets firing Carlos Mendoza this past week added a little bit more flame to it. And, the Phillies have really turned things around since they fired their manager. Boston Red Sox, not so much since they cleaned house. But it just goes to show that getting rid of one guy may fix some of your problems, but it won't fix all of them.
It's almost like having Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber on your team means you should win games no matter who your manager is. And
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Sanchez,
Yeah,
not to mention Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, the list can go on and on.
that it does. That it does. But I don't know what so here's the thing, Jeremy. Here's where I'm at with this series to the south side. Number one, another series loss. Unfortunately, that's not something that Royals fans are not used to at this point in the season. Another losing road trip. I think like they're 1-6 now in their road trips. Like it's just not a good run. But I guess if you're gonna suck, at least do it on the road so people have something to look forward to when you come home. Not that the Royals have given you much to look forward to when they come home lately, but that's a whole nother conversation. And here's the thing. I understand that the White Sox are much better in 2026 than they have been in previous seasons. But like the White Sox have thoroughly decimated the Royals this season. The Royals are 3-7 against the Chicago White Sox in 2026. This is their first losing season series since 2020 when they were 1-9 in that shortened season. And the Royals, like over the past few years, it's kind of been dependable, I would say, that the Royals would at least, win against the White Sox. They would handle business there. But the Chicago White Sox this series thoroughly looked like the better team, and the Royals looked like the scrappy team that just narrowly pulled out a win against the young and up and coming Chicago White Sox. So I get it that they've been very close games between the two, but heading into today, they've lost 6 straight games to the Chicago White Sox.
Friday was not a close game.
Nope. No. Do we want to remind Royals fans of that one?
The thing is that after the Thursday loss, where they were almost no hit, I was just kind of shrugging and saying, yeah, it happens. The offenses looked so much better. I'm not stressed about it. But then they went and did the same dang thing against the White Sox.
More so.
And then they scored 1 run Saturday. Now they scored, was it 5 runs
5.
today?
Yeah, 5 today.
So, they've still got a couple more days and they've still got a whole season left. And maybe this is the blip since they've fixed the lineup that's like, yeah, a good team will have a bad handful of games. Maybe they'll be all right next to each other.
Yeah, maybe.
But
Maybe.
it also comes right on the heels of Max writing that "Do we owe Alex Zumwalt an apology" article, which, that's not going over well right now.
No, it was a pretty poor timing there, unfortunately.
Yeah, Friday's game, it kind of broke me a little bit. I was just furious in a way that I was not. I was just kind of resigned watching the Rays game, but against the White Sox, it's like, you guys, this pitcher's not that good. He's not awful, but he's not that good. It was his former Royals farmhand, David Sandlin.
Mm-hmm.
And their bullpen has been not good all year.
No.
It
has not.
And they walked the bases loaded and they scored a run on a bases loaded double play. And that's the only run they scored. Why? What are you doing? And this is a guy who struggled with his command. Let him keep throwing balls. There's also an argument going around about how Isaac Collins and Lane Thomas watch a lot of strike threes. So it really feels like the Royals are passive when they should be aggressive and aggressive when they should be passive. And that feels like a hitting philosophy problem.
It does.
We'll see, I guess. I tend to think that it makes sense for Isaac Collins to be passive because if he gets a pitcher's pitch, he's not going to hit it anyway. So we might as well watch it and hope it's a ball. Now, the problem with that argument is he makes, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but anecdotally, it feels like he makes a lot of bad challenges. Like he makes more challenges than most Royals, and he's wrong more often than not. So that feels bad. And Lane Thomas watches a lot down the middle. The whole staff watches, the whole roster watches a lot of fastballs down the middle. Jack, before he hit that opposite field line drive home run that we were so in love with Tuesday night, watched a fastball down the middle. He just got a second fastball down the middle that he didn't watch. So, and that was an issue last year. I wrote a whole article about it. The Royals were watching too many fastballs down the middle. That's your pitch. That's the one you're hoping for the entire time. So I don't know. I don't want to draw too many conclusions. I will say that as a person who has defended Q, attacked Q, defended Q, I do not understand why Daniel Lynch and Alex Lang are pitching in the 7th inning of a blowout. Why isn't Tyler Tolbert out there in the 7th inning?
Well, because you have
Tyler
to keep him ready
Tolbert
for
could
the
have been
ninth.
out there in the 3rd inning. You only have to be down by 8 runs. And then you can have a position player. And why are you burning the best relievers in your bullpen, which, they're not great, but they're the best ones you got? Why are you burning them in a game where you're down by 20 runs?
Yeah. Yeah.
What
it
benefit
doesn't make any
is there
sense
to that?
There isn't one. Like that's
And then
that's what
because
it boils
Daniel
down to.
Lynch pitched Friday, could that mean that he didn't, are we sure that didn't affect him Saturday when he was trying to protect the tie game?
It could have. It certainly
you
helped.
never know how all of this stuff is going to snowball. So it seemed like a really big managerial mishandling to have those guys out there. Of course, Mitch Spence pitching was a roster management mishandling. You know what I realized ahead of that game that I don't know that I ever had known this before, was that Mitch Spence was DFA'd before the Royals traded for him.
Correct. Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I thought the Royals just straight up traded for him. He had just been DFA'd before spring training started by the Athletics. That's how much the Athletics didn't want him. They're like, we're not even going to have you in spring training, bud. You're gone.
No. Yeah, they'd seen enough of him.
And the Royals traded a guy that we liked in AJ Causey for him. And at the time I was like, well, the numbers look okay. Maybe he could be a reliever. The A's clearly knew something about him to DFA him like that when the numbers were what they were.
Well, here's
It
the
feels like a huge mistake. Max, this reminds me real quick. Sorry, Max looked up at one point that the Royals have the third fewest waiver claims over the last 3 years. And people were complaining that the Royals have waiver claims from other teams. But the Royals don't have waiver claims from other teams. They have guys they traded for who were
mhm.
DFA'd by other teams, like Mitch Spence and Connor Siebold. Like, my guys, just claim 'em. If you don't get them, they were DFA'd. They're not that good. They're not worth trading an AJ Causey for. Now, Causey's not been good for the Athletics, but Will Klein wasn't good for the Athletics either.
No. No, he wasn't. I do want to say on Kazi, congratulations to him on just getting the call up to AAA there in the Athletics organization, because while his ERA has been pretty ugly there in the Athletics organization, he's got a sub 4 FIP and has been dealing with a little bit of a injury, but he's come back and he's looking a lot better. And we'll see if he could be the same guy that really shined in 2025 for in the Royals organization, but he's at least gaining steam there in the Athletics organization. And I get it. Trade your relief prospects, especially. Trade your relief prospects when you can get something of value. Unfortunately, like, we just haven't seen that value for Mitch Spence. We've seen him 3 times this year. He's allowed at least 6 earned runs in each one of his outings. And I will say, if you follow me on or follow the podcast, excuse me, on social media, I did make the case that we're going to see Mitch Spence in Kansas City once again this year, because the rotational injuries are so bad that the Royals need innings at this point. I think that's why we still
He
have.
doesn't even give you innings.
Well, he didn't in his most
He
recent
threw
outing.
40 pitches and couldn't get out of the inning.
I know that was a bad, that first and foremost, that was a bad outing. All right, even our better pitchers have bad outings, and he's
His
not
season
one of our
ERA
better
is over
pitchers.
20.
It is, and I think that if this was a results based organization, he would be designated for assignment. But I make the argument, who else then? Okay, because
Anyone. Let's check out Ryan Ramsey. Let's check out Randy Dobnak. I don't care. I just don't need to see Mitch Spence again.
I think that we're going to see Dobnak here within the next month for sure, as we should. And
not that I think those guys are any good, but don't feed me the same slop every day and act like I should be grateful for it. At least give me different slop so I could be like, well, maybe this will be okay.
And I just think, like, the different slop approach got us to Rich Hill last year. It's the team is bad. There's nothing at this point of the season that is going to change that. Within
You
reason,
trying to tell
at
me
least.
that the Rich Hill experience wasn't better than watching Trevor Richards pitch for the Royals again?
No, I'm not trying to say that. You're right.
Okay.
You got a point there. Also, Dobnak getting a lot of support right now on social media from the folks over there at Tread Athletics, because he has a lot of surrounding numbers that say, hey, he's worth being a major league starter, at least for a handful of games. And it's hard to disagree with that, especially with how the Royals are looking in the rotation right now. I do want to talk about today's starter, Lwinder Avila, who did not look very good.
Which has been a trend.
Yes, it has. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. A good amount of the damage done today on that 2-run shot, but he allowed 6 hits overall, walking 3 while striking out 4 in his 4 innings of work. I'm going to steal your thunder here, Jeremy, because I'm done with
It's not my thunder. It's more Trenton Craxner's thunder. I'm hoping he's going to write an article about this for Royals Review, but it was such a good idea I couldn't resist discussing it with you.
Well, because I'm just done with the starter experiment right now. So I understand that this could fly in a little bit of the face of what we talked about with, like, well, throw guys out there and see what you got. Right now, we've thrown him out there as a starter and see what we got. And it's not good right now. He still has a lot of development to do if he wants to reach this frontline starter ceiling that Q's talked about, that JJ Piccolo's talked about. Also, I was a little frustrated that we didn't hear from JJ Piccolo today ahead of the Sunday game, because he's flying out to the East Coast to look at draft prospects. I get it. That's a part of his job. But if we wanted to hear from the general manager at any point I feel like this was a titular road trip to hear from him on.
Yeah.
But I'm just put him in the bullpen, man. Just put him in
Yeah,
the
so
bullpen.
this started because I was chatting with Trenton in the Royals review Slack, and he said we need to be done with this Avila starting experiment. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't think it's gonna work, but there ain't no harm in letting him do it. And he's like, or he could be getting chances as a closer to see if do you have a closer for next year? Because I tell you what, we probably don't want is Alex Lang trying to close games next year. Can't count on Estevez, can't count on Urseg. Strom's not under contract. So you don't just need starters, you need a closer for next year. So at the same time that I don't necessarily need to see Mitch Spence or Randy Dobnak starting instead of Avila, I don't need to see Alex Lang closing games instead of Avila. And I feel like Avila's probably got a better future as a closer than as a starter. For one thing, I just pulled up his splits. As a starter, he has 22 walks in 28 and a third innings with, no, wait, sorry, 21. It was 3 walks today.
Yeah, it was 3 walks today.
21 walks in 28 and a third innings, compared to 26 strikeouts.
Yeah,
Whereas
that's
in the
not good.
bullpen, he has 16 strikeouts to 9 walks as a reliever. And I think that he's more likely to progress as a reliever than he is as a starter. I think some of the work he was doing as a reliever was still with a thought process of being a starter. I know at least one of those games, well, maybe I don't know. I think at least one of those games he was acting as a bulk reliever. So that's a different mindset. And yeah, if the Royals need starters and closers, well, then we might as well experiment with him in the role that he's more likely to be successful in.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think that makes sense.
It does. It does. And also just to remind folks that if you weren't following him through the farm system, Avila was like a starter for his minor league career, right? But the results, the game level results were not good for him in that role. And he transitioned to more of a bullpen role and things started shifting. And that's why when he came up to make his major league debut last year, we only got him for 13 appearances, sure, but like a 1.29 ERA is pretty dang good, especially compared to a 2.14 FIP. Like he was good in that role. He was
A lot
good
of
in that single.
strikeouts,
Yes, lot of
which
strikeouts,
the
and
Royals desperately need.
they do. They're one of the worst teams when it comes to striking folks out, and that's because the bullpen just doesn't have that raw stuff right now, and it is so frustrating. But like that's kind of been the norm for the Royals over the past few years. It just feels like it is much worse right now with the injury bug. I think this is something that Royals fans should have like an active conversation about because I talk about Spence and he's going to be here because you need innings. Oh well, you need innings, so keep Avila stretched out as a starter and keep going. But the difference between Spence and the Venezuelan is the fact that the Royals have a lot invested in his development. They don't have much
Mhm.
invested in Spence. And when they traded for him this offseason, I made the case, and the numbers still stand out, that works better, not best. He's still like a average at best single inning guy. But like that's where he has more value is in that. And right now he's getting shoehorned into being a multi-inning guy, and that is where most of the damage is coming from for him. So it's a frustrating spot for the Royals to be at. They need to start getting more creative with the roster, and we need to be seeing more roster turnover, not just guys going between the 26-man roster in Kansas City, but guys going or between Omaha, excuse me, but guys going off the 40-man roster to different organizations and calling up other guys or claiming guys off the waiver wire. I think so this is spitballing. This is not a solution, but like this is a possible avenue, right? Former former Twins pitcher Simeon Woods Richardson. Just he hasn't been stellar, sure, but he's 25 years old. He got designated for assignment by the Toronto Blue Jays. The Royals are in a spot right now where they just need a starter. And who would you rather see? I think fans would rather see action, even though it makes more sense. Oh, well, Spence has options. Spence can go between Omaha and Kansas City, sure. And Woods Richardson can't do that because he's out of options. But like you said, we've seen the slop. We've seen the Spence slop already. Give us something a little bit different, maybe. And at least that would get more interest from fans, even if it doesn't change the results. I don't think there's any changing the
And if
results
you're
at this point in 2026.
one of the things that's the benefit of a guy who has options is that you don't risk losing him from your organization when you don't want him on the 26-man roster. I don't care if Mitch Spence is on the roster, if he's in the organization. And if Simeon Woods Richardson, you add him to the roster and you give him a start or two and he looks awful and you cut him, well, okay, he's not in the organization. You haven't lost anything. You took a chance. It's there's no downside of lose, and then you could put someone else on the 40-man roster, whether that's somebody already in the organization, a rookie, or somebody outside the organization that you want to give a shot to. There's just I think about the Atlanta Braves a little bit. They just signed Carlos Carrasco to a minor league deal for the 5th time this year. Do they seem concerned about him leaving the organization and not being able to get him? No. They're like, well, he's been good enough that we like having him around, but if he leaves, we'll find someone else to fill that spot. We won't be super concerned about it. And the
Yeah.
Braves are winning.
Yep.
The Dodgers do the same. A lot of other teams do this where they go, I don't need to be able to keep this guy in the organization. I'll drop him and then add someone of equal ability off of the waiver wire because this guy is waiver wire fodder. He's not someone I have to keep around. There's something to be said for having inventory, but if the inventory is the same as the stuff you can get at no cost off the shelf of MLB free agency, then cares.
Yeah. Yeah. The Royals they're having a little bit of turnover there in AAA, but just not enough. Like Aaron Sanchez gone, released from AAA. Luke Jackson, the veteran lefty or righty reliever, excuse me, he's gone as well from the Storm Chasers. I wish that there was a guy that we could look at in Omaha and say, yeah, they're going to make this team better. But like yet again, and yet again, that's not the case. And I fully believe that the larger part of this is, poor drafting by the previous regime and just the new talent that is in the prospect pipeline has not reached that level yet. You have to wait years for a return on investment when it comes to international free agents and the draft and things like that. But it's starting to increase where it's like, okay, as time goes on, you can't blame this on the previous regime too much because if you're being passive on fixing this issue, then that's your fault. It's not and I'm not saying the Royals should go out and give up prospect capital to go and make the AAA rotation better. No, I don't think that's a spot they're in, but we're just not seeing a ton of action compared to other teams like you're talking about, Jeremy.
Yeah, is one of the things I pointed out a few weeks ago was that the Royals were among the teams. They were like the team with the third fewest transactions in baseball, and that includes moving guys to the IL, calling guys up from the minor leagues. Like they just didn't move guys. Period. They were sitting there going, "We're going to try and compete. Nothing's working. Well, we're not going to change anything. We're not even going to move guys around within the organization." It's mind-boggling, and this obsession with only using guys that you keep around all year, I don't get it. Like I said, this is Atlanta, this is Carlos Carrasco's not the first guy they've done this with either. Jesse Chavez signed I don't know how many deals with Atlanta over his career.
Yeah. He
And
signed a lot.
you just gotta go, listen, if the talent's not in our organization, and it's not, it simply isn't, then it doesn't matter if it's under contract. It doesn't matter if you can't keep that guy if he's not performing in the big leagues and you need to move him. It doesn't matter because you can just go get a guy of the same talent level to fill in the next time you need it. You're
Mhm.
not you're just not losing anything. And I think in a couple of years, the 28 probably things are going to be different. You're going to have guys that are part of your draft classes that are getting ready to come to the big leagues in Blake Mitchell and Kendry Churio and David Shields and all these guys. But until then, why are you so attached to these other guys that you didn't even bring in? Why? I don't you can move on. You can. It's allowed. And
It
they
is.
can go look for an organization that wants to give them a shot, and you can give someone else a shot. And just roster churn is a thing that should be happening and is not.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of roster turn, we did finally get Bobby Witt Jr. back into the lineup on Friday night. He played shortstop today and yesterday, so he's back in the field. Absolutely love seeing that from Witt after that MCL sprain, if I recall correctly. Yes, grade 1
Mhm.
MCL sprain. He had a sacrifice fly today. He had a double yesterday. Like, he doesn't look like he's 100% in the field or at the plate, but like this is one of those guys where like the talent is just on a whole other level compared to the roster, that even an 80% or a
And the
70% Bobby
Royals,
Witt Jr. is your best player.
yeah, and the Royals got to put their best player out there, even if it's bad for his health and bad
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
future of the
obviously.
franchise, because they got to get those wins right now.
Yep. They're really trying to chase down that wild card spot, right?
I don't get it, Jacob. Let
No.
the guy get healthy.
Yep.
What are we doing? Why are you risking things? Why are you taking these unnecessary chances?
I really don't know. I really don't know, man. But like you said, thankfully the Royals are heading back home to Kansas City they have an off day on Monday, and then they have a 6-game homestand, 3 against the Rays, and then 3 against the Phillies, I believe it is.
That sounds correct.
Yeah, we will. It's you go and look at the projected starters for that Tampa Bay Rays series, and it is on both sides. It's TBA for all 3 games. Like, it is, like you said, the injury bug it's firmly infested in the Royals clubhouse, but it is certainly biting other teams as well pretty hard. Do you have any other positives from the Chicago White Sox series? Like, it's one to forget. It's more of the same from this Royals team right now, and I don't know. This is a very forgettable season already.
Yeah, we already talked about Carter Jensen. Other positives. Steven Cruz didn't look bad
Yeah,
over the series. He looked pretty good. Beck Way still looks pretty good. So the Royals might have a couple bullpen answers in those guys. Of course, I thought we had a bullpen answer in Steven Cruz already, and then he didn't make the opening day roster. They were slow to call him up. Then he started tipping pitches, so it took a while to figure that out. Beck Way had the really bad appearance the first time they gave him. Gave him a lead to pitch with. It wasn't even a leverage inning, though. He pitched leverage today. Every relief inning today was leverage because it was a 1-run lead.
yeah,
So yeah, Matt Strum has had a couple scoreless outings. He's still not striking anyone out. Lucas Erceg had a scoreless outing. He had a walk and no strikeouts. That concerns me. Alex Lang didn't have any strikeouts today.
yeah.
And the White Sox strike out a lot. So the
They do.
bullpen
They
not
chase a
getting
lot.
strikeouts. Yeah, the bullpen not getting strikeouts against those guys is especially concerning.
Yeah, and it's flustering. Like, it's
There's not a lot of good takeaway from this series.
no.
Carter Jensen. I'm happy about Carter Jensen.
Yeah. Hopefully, what are we hoping for in the coming week heading into July? I'm hoping that Jac Caglianone is healthy. I hope that we get a good update on Maikel Garcia as well. I'm hoping that we'll see Chris Bubich at the major league level before the All-Star break, but like that's a little iffy. Like, I don't know about you. I would rather the Royals fully stretch him out as a starter before
I
trying to bring
certainly
him
would
back up into the
because
bullpen.
I think if you stretch him out as a starter, Avila makes the most sense as the guy to drop from the rotation. And as we talked about, we'd like to see him take a stab at the closer's role. So I would the other way you could do that is leave Avila in the rotation and give Bubic a shot at the closer's role. But that's for a team that's trying to win or a team that's looking towards its future with Bubic, and they're not looking towards their future with Bubic. I
No.
don't think, unless they've got an extension they're getting ready to announce, which I don't hate that idea, but I'm a huge Bubic fan, so I might be a little biased.
Yeah, I Bubich right now. Anything that the organization does with him should be to raise his trade value or to at least not crater it. Which I had, shout out to Bleacher Report for taking my trade idea for Chris Bubich. I put out an article talking about folks that could be traded for Chris Bubich from the Athletics, and they named all. So
Ooh,
that was
I
like
don't I didn't see that article
it would from me or from Bleacher Report.
either.
Either. So they put out trade ideas for all 30 MLB teams, and previously I'd put out like, hey, these are some prospects that could be the centerpiece for a Bubich trade for the Athletics, primarily Tommy White, a first baseman that we talked about a little bit, and I think it makes sense, especially after what's Vinny Pasquantino look like beyond 2026. We haven't seen a good Vinny, but I mean, shoot, maybe maybe put Vinny in front of Bobby. We'll slow down the base pass quite a bit, but maybe Vinny will actually get some pitches to hit like Carter Jensen has so far in his leadoff role. I
Not
I
sure I
I got
love
nothing.
a first baseman who's hitting below average in AAA, but, that might just be me,
Well, he's their 10th prospect for a reason.
I guess.
And see, here's the issue
His
with the
skill
trade
set is
deadline.
similar to Maikel Franco's. We remember Maikel Franco.
Yeah, that went really well, didn't it?
I don't need more Maikel Franco, honestly, I'm good.
Are are you sure about that? Are you sure you don't need
Yeah.
more Maikel Franco in your
Yeah, I'm
life?
I'm good. I think
Okay.
I'm good.
So here's something that Royals fans need to remember as we look into who the Royals are going to sell off and what they're going to get back. The reality is that whoever is trading for Chris Bubich is only going to get him for 2 months max. That's gonna hamper his trade value. Now, I know Michael Walk is a popular trade candidate. I know Seth Lugo is a guy who Royals fans are ready to see dealt at the deadline. And you might get a little bit more for them, but those are both like big contracts for older pitchers. Like right now, the Royals don't have any of the headline trade targets for baseball, and there you shouldn't be expecting like top 100 prospects in return for these guys.
Do you remember how we reacted to the Seth Lugo extension news, Jacob?
I don't. No,
I don't either. I don't remember if we liked it or if we didn't like it. Boy, I don't like it now.
I don't like it now at all. Which,
And
granted, he looks
I
better
can't
now than he
say
did last
100.
year.
I'm trying to think back to, like, what would I have thought of that deal knowing what I knew about Seth Lugo then, and I think the reason we probably don't remember it is because we were probably like, "Fine, I guess." I suspect is how we reacted because that's my thought now is like, "Yeah, you got him, you control him, we like having him around. He's been pretty good. He's gonna be older, so that's a little concerning." I don't know. And it's not worked out so far.
Not at all. And just for everyone's clarification, so Seth Lugo is under contract through the 2027 season, and he has a vesting option for 2028. If that
That he
option
will
doesn't go
I
ahead.
would bet he hits that. I would bet he vests it.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And like I said, he's been better this year than he was last year. I understand the ERA is about similar, but what Seth Lugo can control, he's been doing much better. And to his credit, he's still made 16 starts for the Royals, who just desperately need
He's
starts right now.
he's had a couple really bad starts and a bunch of pretty good starts.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Anything else on the Royals front, Jeremy?
I think the Royals should trade Michael Wacha because it's not fair to have a guy give you 7 and a third one-run innings and then lose that game and not even really have it be competitive. It didn't feel like, "Oh, they just barely lost." It felt like, "Okay, they're gonna lose. How are they gonna lose?" And so I think they should just let him pitch for a good team. I think that's only fair.
Yeah,
I also
I
think
think that's
he's
the
the
best way.
only pitcher they could trade who's likely to bring back anything interesting. If Tommy White's all we can get for Chris Bubich, I that doesn't excite me. So, I don't even know if Tommy White ever makes it to the big leagues. That's my thing.
Okay, all right, fair enough, fair enough. And
So
yeah,
it's
this
it's I a month ago, I was like, "Well, the Royals suck, but at least they have a bunch of guys that I think could be really good trade candidates, get them a lot of prospects back." And then I look at this team and I'm going, "Man, I don't know who they can trade. I don't know what they're gonna get if they do trade guys." For a minute, it looked like John Schreiber was really gonna be worth something, and then he had that really bad outing in the blowout. Daniel Lynch, for a while, looked like he could get something, and he's had a couple bad outings. Matt Strom, before he got hurt, was looking pretty good, but then he's been awful since then. Yeah, I just don't know, man. I don't know. It's gonna be I'm still my hope right now is Jac Caglianone to the home run derby. That's all I feel like I have to potentially look forward to.
yeah, this is a pretty bad spot for Royals fans to be in. There's no other way to dice it, which is why I'm not having a visceral reaction anymore to folks talking about like who should be fired, who should or shouldn't be fired. Like I'll point out facts, but I'm not going to be the guy defending folks anymore. Like this is
Yeah,
there's nothing that this current leadership can do right now to change it. So if they can't change it, maybe someone else could. That's the point I'm at.
I don't if it were up to me, I'm not sure I would fire Quatrero or Piccolo, but it's getting harder and harder it's certainly no longer a hill I wanna die on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I would love for our listeners to weigh in on that. Once again, shout out to you Spotify commenters. Another very good conversation on our last podcast episode. But Jeremy, what do we say? What do you say we get to some Royals reviews, huh?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, sounds like a plan. I got a simple one, and it's over a gadget, I guess. So it's hard to describe. It's one of these electronic cleaning kits that's it's like an all in one. I got it for like cleaning out my phone and things like that. But like I use it for cleaning all my electronics, and I believe it's extended the life of my stuff. Like my phone's a few years old, my headphones are a couple of years old, and just stuff's not made to last anymore. Stuff is made to be disposable, unfortunately. That's the world
Planned
we live in.
obsolescence.
Hashtag inshitification. But I fully believe that if you want to try and keep your stuff working, then you have to get the tools to keep them working. And one of these little cleaning kits is the way to go for me. If you want the link to the one I have, I guess you could send me a DM and I'll send it to you. But you can find these pretty much anywhere. Jeremy, over to you.
So my review this week is going to be on a movie I watched last night instead of the Royals game. It was a much better experience, let me tell you. It was Project Hail Mary.
Let's hear it.
As we've established, I am a huge Ryan Gosling fan, so I was very excited for this film. And then I saw that it was the book it was based on was written by the same guy who wrote The Martian, and I watched The Martian, and I talked about that a while back, a few months ago on an earlier podcast. We someday we should start a wiki like effectively Wild has to track all of our episodes and what we talked about and all that stuff.
That'd be fun.
But I loved The Martian, and I had high hopes going into Project Hail Mary, and it was a great time. If you like The Martian, I think you're gonna like Project Hail Mary. If you like Wally, I think that's probably got there's a lot of similarities there. One of the things that really stunned me is that it really paints a bleak picture of humanity, but is really positive in tone and, like, hopeful the entire time anyway, which I think is super cool. I don't know how you I figured they must have made some sort of deal with a fairy. I don't know what they had to give up for that, but it was a deal that was worth it for me.
Okay.
I am really looking forward to watching that movie again. I will say it is a long movie. It is almost 3 hours, but it didn't feel long because none of that was filler. It was all keep you entertained, amused, and driving the plot forward the entire time.
Mhm.
Really, really high quality movie.
I think that bleak picture you're talking about, I think it resonates with a lot of people right now because it's a bleak picture for systems and societies, but Project Hail Mary shows the hope that individuals can bring. And that is I don't want to spoil anything, but Ryan
Yeah.
Gosling is like he's not just the guy, he's the only guy for a good amount of that movie. And I'll say it again. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir broke me out of a multi-year reading slump. It is one of my top 5 books of all time. So
Yeah, I
highly
think
suggest
I'm gonna have to read it at some point.
so I've heard that most folks rankings, they think the book is good,
Mhm.
but the audiobook is considered to be one of the best of like just the
I do
audiobooks
most of my
ever.
reading by audiobook these days, so
So I think you'll like it, Jeremy. I would love to hear your review on that later on down.
alright, when I get to it. I'm still hip deep in the Throne of Glass series.
Yes, that's a good one to be hip deep in. And something that Jeremy reminded us of about a month ago that I just want to reiterate as the Royals are, one of the first teams to 50 losses, and there's not a lot of signs of things getting better. You need to take a break from the Royals. Take a break from the Royals. All right, we'll keep you up to date on them, but you don't have to watch every single game to still be a fan. You can admit where this team is at and go read a book, go take a
It's
walk, go to the gym,
it's
something.
so easy to get your hands on box scores. And if, like, say you're a huge fan of, you're on the Jack wagon. You're like, yes, I'm all aboard the Jack wagon. And you're like, I want to see every Jack home run. Guess what? They're gonna have a replay. You
Yep.
don't gotta watch it live. You could watch
Yep.
the replays.
Exactly.
Just if it's the thing I always come back to is, like, I see so many people, and I've experienced for myself, like, just watching a game and having it ruin my day. And that's not what this is for. That's not what entertainment or sports are for. It's not to ruin things, it's to make things better. So if it's ruining your day, I hope you will take a break. I think we all need breaks even from things we love sometimes. So, I hope if it's causing you distress or discomfort, take a break. You can hang out with us. We're gonna have a good time regardless. And with the Royals will be there. Maybe they'll be better next year. We can always hope.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Also, congratulations to the Omaha Storm Chasers. They had their 5 millionth fan pass through the gates of Werner Park. So I
Woo!
thought that was pretty cool. Werner Park opened up back in 2011. So, not as many fans go out to a AAA game as compared to an MLB game, but still a very cool benchmark for the Omaha Storm Chasers to pass there in Werner Park. Alrighty, folks. That is going to do it for today's episode of the Royals Rundown podcast. We appreciate you listening along with us. As always, if you want to keep the conversation going, you can do that with our links down in the podcast description, or you can hop on royalsreview.com to chat with us there. I am Jacob Milham. They're Jeremy Greco. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, go Royals.
Fist my bump, bro.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.